All right, kiddos, I just wanted to check in. I know that our meeting on Wednesday or today was kind of rushed and we spent majority of the time on the popcorn lab. So I wanted to just make sure that you guys were very clear on what you had to do for this newspaper project. The first thing I want to say about the newspaper project is that it's going to be a project that we do over several days. This week, we're only starting part one of the project, which is actually to collect the research on your time span. After you collect the research on your time span, then you guys will put it together in an article to create your actual newspaper. The finished product of your newspaper will look like this. So this is mine, and I did the example on the Jurassic period. You will first have to create a logo for your newspaper. This is my logo right here. I created it on Google Draw, and then I screenshotted it and put it right up here on the sheet. It's totally your choice on what your logo looks like, but you do have to make the logo yourself. You cannot take a picture off of Google and just claim that as your logo. Can you use pictures in your logo? Absolutely, but you do need to make it your unique logo. The logo or the name of your newspaper has to have your time period name in there somewhere. So my time period name was Jurassic, so that's why mine's called the Jurassic Tribune. Underneath your logo, you will write the title of your newspaper, which mine is the Jurassic Tribune. So that's written right there. And then you will write your article. Now, the article you're going to write for your newspaper is going to be some kind of article that would be found in a newspaper. So let me give you some examples of things that would be found in a newspaper. Sporting events are often covered in newspapers. Political events and issues are covered. Any kind of politics related information could be found. I've seen students do obituaries. I even saw a really funny one in years past about a dinosaur that had died, and they made a whole story about the dinosaur and his life. It was pretty cool. It was very funny. So you can do something of that nature. There's also things that could be related to jail if they're doing like a wanted ad. Saw a kid do dinosaur wanted for some kind of crime he committed, and they wrote an article on that. That was pretty clever and funny as well. So the possibilities are endless. It can be any kind of current event or anything that you would find in a newspaper. What I don't want to see is you use I, me, or you for your newsletter, because that is not formal professional writing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That's not what I want to see in yours. It needs to be a formal professional piece that would actually be found in a newspaper. And you're writing the newspaper from the perspective that you're currently in your time span, okay? In addition to writing your article will have to be a fictitious story, which means it's a made-up story, so it can be anything you want, but it does have to have 10 true facts about your time period in it. And I don't just want you to throw up the facts in my face. I want you to hide them within your story. So, for example, my story is about the Camiosaurus dinosaurs and how they've grown so large that they're starting to die because they're growing at such rapid rates. So one of my facts I've used is that it started when my period started, which is in 199.6 MA. So that's when the Jurassic period had begun. So that would count as a fact towards my time span. So that's something you could use. You could use the beginning time of your time span. You could use the end time of your time span as a fact. But you don't want to just say one fact is blah, 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 blah. You want to hide it within your story. So I said the epidemic is thought to have started at the beginning of the Jurassic period in 199.6 MA. So keep that in mind, that is something that you will have to do throughout your story. Okay, so you'll have to have 10 solid facts, and you'll have a good chunk of a story. Mine's a couple paragraphs long. I want it to reflect that we've actually spent several days on this. Make sure it looks like that. In addition to doing your article, you'll have to have 2 pictures. Here is one of my pictures, and the other one is at the bottom right here. And next to each picture, you will need to have at least a 2-sentence caption that explains what the picture shows. So here's my caption here, and here's my caption here. So you can see that I have my captions. Then you will need to list your sources that you used. My sources are listed here in this red box. Your textbook does count as one of your 3 sources. Can you have more than 3 sources? Absolutely. You can have as many as you choose. I just want to remind you that Google is not a source. It is a search engine, so please do not put Google. And I also want to remind you that Wikipedia is not a reliable source to use, so please do not use Wikipedia. Anything else should be totally fine. Some helpful research advice when searching for your time span, it's very helpful to put 4 kids at the end of what you're searching. So for example, if I'm going to put the Jurassic period information into Google, I should put the Jurassic information period, or the Jurassic period information for kids. If you follow it up with the word for kids, it helps find friendly websites that have good chunks of information instead of having really long things to read to try to find facts. I think it will help you in the long run. You will use the template I've created right here to create your digital newspaper. So that's what's also linked here on this classroom assignment. Right here is the rubric that tells you how it will be graded, which is right here, the newspaper rubric. It also goes over what you need to have. It bullet points it. So it tells you everything you have to have and how many points it's worth. For the photos and captions, for the logo, creativity, visual appearance, sources, for your total of 55 points. So you can also see the rubric and see how I will be grading your particular project. You also have my example right here that you can see. You will not be able to edit my digital example. You just get to look at it and you can read it. The other document that is linked is your research sheet, the research sheet that looks like this. Again, I want to remind you that the research sheet does not require any PQPA, it's just your notes. You do get a grade for the research sheet though, so you do need to make sure you complete it. To find the beginning and end time of your time period, you will want to use page 122 and 123. Those have the entire timeline for every single time span. You'll be able to find the beginning and end dates for your time span. And I will remind you that MA means millions of years ago. So you'll notice on the timeline that the numbers will actually go down instead of up, because as you get closer to present day, it's going to get less million years away from us. So the number will actually decrease. The MA number will decrease. To find out how long it lasted, you simply subtract the 2 numbers, and that will be how many millions of years it lasted. You'll want to come up with some major events. A lot of major events were marked at the beginning and the end of a time span, so that's the kind of helpful hints. You'll need at least 2 major events because it's plural, as in more than one. Geographical features is what did the Earth look like? Many of your time spans will have different geographical features. Sometimes there's no continents at all. Sometimes there's huge one supercontinent called Pangaea. Sometimes there's just 2 large continents because Pangaea broke up into 2 large pieces. So I'm asking you to explain what the Earth looked like at that time. Atmosphere is going to be simply just telling me what the air was like. Was there a lot of pollution in there because there was a lot of volcanic eruptions? What kind of gases were in the air? Why were these gases? And thinking about that plant and animal life impact. You know, if there's not any plants around during your time, there's not going to be much oxygen being put into the air. If there's no humans around during your time, there's not going to be a whole lot of carbon dioxide being expelled. So thinking about those kind of things as well. Climate is just simply asking you what the weather was like. Was it hot? Was it cold? Was it humid? Was it sticky? Was it wet? Was it dry? What was the climate like? Plants and animals. Everybody should have some kind of life on their time except for the Hadean eon. And the Archean eon is the beginning of bacteria. So although there was no plants and animals, bacteria had begun to form and microorganisms. So the only time span that should not have to do number 6 or put there are no plants and animals would be the Hadean eon. If you're not the Hadean eon, you should have an answer for number 6. Number 7 asks you to put these in order from least to from largest to smallest. So you'll take a look at the timeline on page 122 and 123 and determine what is the largest section of time to the smallest section of time. And your word bank is right here. You'll use the terms period, eon, epoch, and era. Number 8 is the one where you will have to figure out where your time span falls in relation to other time spans on the timeline. Tell me, is it in an eon? Is it in an era? Does it have epochs below it? Does it have periods below it? Does it have eras below it? What comes before it? What comes after it? So just telling me where it falls on the timeline. Interesting facts are easy enough, just 3 things you learned that didn't fit anywhere else in your sheet. And then finally, your sources. So that should give you a wrap on this sheet. This sheet will be about 20 points, and this will be the sheet that will help you create your article, because you'll take the information you typed on this sheet and then you'll create your article. When you are ready to create your article, you will use this template right here that says newspaper template for students. You'll open it and you'll notice it's my example, but this time you can edit it. And this is where you're going to keep everything I have in here, except you're going to delete it and put your information in. So let's say my title is going to be The Cretaceous Times. And I didn't spell Cretaceous right. I'm about to look that up. There we go. The Cretaceous Times. So then I'll just delete Miss Shraggy's and I'll put mine in. I'll delete Miss Shraggy's logo and put mine in. Okay, but it's all set up for you so that you can do it on your own and you don't have to do your formatting. I've already done the formatting for you. Okay, so that's why that one is attached, and you'll just change the name of it. You'll change it to whatever your last name is, newspaper, so that it's yours, and you'll delete all of my stuff and you'll put your stuff in it. So it's nice and easy template for you to use. Okay, so I hope this video has helped you guys understand what the expectation is a little bit better for the newspaper project, and we can talk a whole lot more about it in our next meeting, but I didn't want you guys to feel stressed and not knowing what you guys were doing. So I just needed to give you a little rundown of what to expect. Again, we will go over this more in depth on Monday. What you guys need to worry about as far as what to do this week is just to fill out your research sheet. Get the research sheet completed and turned in, and then you're good to go. As long as you have that done by our next meeting, you should be totally fine, and then you can start putting it together. Okay? All right, and please feel free to email me if you have any questions or concerns as you work through your project. I look forward to reading them, and see you guys next time.